The Antarctic, a frozen wasteland at the very bottom of our beautiful planet, spanning 5,500,000 square miles in size, which is 40% larger than all of Europe, and sitting at a latitude of -69.6 and a longitude of 0. This enigmatic behemoth of ice and snow takes the place of our 7th and least populated continent. And in the grand scheme of things, we really don't know much about it. No one lives there full time, save for the 1,000 or so researchers and scientists stationed. No one's allowed to visit on their own, and in school and life, we're not taught any usable information about it. This strange land has captured the eye of many over our world's history, causing some of the greatest feats of exploration to date. But something still leaves skeptics and theorists alike asking questions about the true nature of the Antarctic. Tales of old forgotten lands, far beyond this proverbial wall of ice. Stories of strange beings and creatures that inhabit those lands, and whispers of entire civilizations past the snow-covered mountains and icebergs. Flora, fauna, humans, and entire continents with their own cultures, their own histories, their own foundations, and their own scientific rules and laws of nature. What if I told you that there is a world, or worlds, that exist beyond the wall of ice in the Antarctic? A world that plays home to millions of lost civilizations and millions more of new civilizations. Prehistoric animals and giant arachnids, dragons and sea creatures, gnomes and goblins, orcs and blimiers, islands and continents, magic, spells, wars, geopolitical turmoil. It all exists in these lands beyond ours. You would think I'm crazy, right? Maybe not. I guess we're all kind of crazy for watching this. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at this alleged lore of all these creatures and lands and cultures and the histories of how they were created, found, and how they're being hidden in modern day. All of these places that take place beyond Antarctica and why we can't go there, what possibly is out there, and the amazing and teeming life that allegedly exists. And hopefully I'll be stringing it together in a way that is understandable and easy to follow along, because trust me, it is a lot. If you enjoy speculative history and speculative evolution, then this is the video for you. You have found a gold mine. Hopefully you enjoy it. Now, are there actually land masses and continents and animals and all that stuff beyond the ice wall? No. There's probably not, but it's really fun to sit here for hours and weeks on end and think about it and write lore about it, and that's what's happened here, and that, my friends, is what I love. I mean, in our known world, we talk of extraterrestrials, and the words extraterrestrial just means not of our Earth. But what if that just means it's beyond our known Earth, and the planets that exist beyond the ice wall are where those extraterrestrials are from? So if that sounds cool to you, please leave a like on this video. My eyes are dead, my brain is melting out of my ears, and my hunchback is getting worse. But this video is super fun to make, and I really hope you enjoy it all. I want this to act as a one-stop shop for lore of what's behind the ice wall and the behind the ice wall and beyond the ice wall fan base. So hopefully that's what it is, and hopefully you can just sit back, relax your mind, open it up a little bit, and get ready to hear all the stuff I'm going to mention. It's great. This thing could be made into a movie. Hopefully it will be one day. That'd be really cool, actually. So grab a bucket of popcorn, grab a Dr. Pepper, kick back, grab a blanket too. It's wintertime. And join me as we take a trip beyond the desolate and lonely landscape of the Antarctic into a new world of life, creatures, and lore and history. By the way, this video is really long. You can click the timestamps below at the bottom slide bar thing if you want to skip the specific parts. Like I said, I'm going to be structuring it in very specific ways. That way you can understand it to the best of your ability. Even though some of it makes no sense, we'll get to all of it, don't worry. Lock in and prepare yourself. This is going to be a crazy ride. Alright, so the map that I'm going to be using for this video is going to be in the description below. There's a Google Drive link with an HD quality map. You can zoom up and see all the different lore if you want to. And I'll also be getting information from the World Beyond the Ice Wall wiki, which is a huge help and a very fun deep dive if you're bored on every single night of your life like me and just want something to look at to read and not get bored. Anyways, both those things will be in the description below if you want to go check it out. And major shout outs to the YouTuber Italian PNC for his covering of these maps and kind of little explanations. That way I can make sense of all the things that I'm going to be talking about today. It made it a lot easier. Thank you, bro. Thank you for you're doing the Lord's work. To begin with, I just want to explain the theory in the most layman's terms possible, just to make it as easy for you as I can. That way you can kind of get a baseline for how the video is going to go, and I kind of just want to set the video on a correct course. If you do want to skip ahead to the creature and the land explanations and the history and stuff, again, check the timestamps. This beginning part will be the prehistory and the basic overview. In this theory, the actual shape of the world is not a sphere like we've been told. It's not a flat Earth or anything, actually. That's not involved in the theory. But instead, it's more of a snowman shape, with planets stacked on top of each other, connected like a snowman. Earth and all the stuff that we know about it, it's 7 continents, all that stuff, it sits on the top of the snowman, where a head of an actual snowman would be. And to the south, or the bottom of our planet Earth, below Antarctica, is the next planet, the body of the snowman. This planet is called Atlas. Atlas is a much larger spherical planet as well, about twice the size of Earth, but below Atlas, on its southern tip, beyond its border, is the biggest planetoid body in this grouping, known as Akupara. So Earth, Atlas, Akupara, this makes the giant planetoid body, and all the mysterious lands and creatures that I'll be discussing exist beyond Earth and in Atlas or Akupara. So this planetoid body is the 3 planets tall, and if you were to look at it from a top-down perspective, you would see the various rings or ice circles that exist to separate the different planets. Like in the main map, you can see how the middle concentric circle is Earth, the one on the outside is Atlas, and the one on the outside is Akupara, and beyond that is a land of mysterious, very weird effects known only as the Wastes. Which again, they also have their own lore. Don't worry about it. Lore, there's lore everywhere, okay? But this collection of planets, this body, this snowman, is known as Gaia or Gaia. Now, Earth and Atlas are orbited by their own unique suns. They have their own rotations and everything like that. But the bottom planet, Akupara, is so large, so expansive, that it actually has 2 suns that rotate around it. That's how much light it needs. And an important thing to note that in this lore system, the only planetary body that has a moon is Earth. There's no more moons of note. We're unique with that, which is pretty cool, I guess. I like the Mothman hoodie. I think it's pretty cool. Now, in this specific video, I will just be going over the lore of Atlas and the different gates and entrances from our ice walls to get there, and all of the continents, all of the creatures and land masses of importance. That's what I'll be going over in this specific part. If you want a part 2 that has all the lore about Akupara and Atlantis and Asgard and the wastes beyond, leave a like for that. This video would simply be way too long to do if I did all that in one go, and I kind of have to consolidate where I can. So this will be a 2-part series. I'm going to do the second part anyways, but I just appreciate you leaving a like, to be honest. Anyways, all that so far is simple enough. Just a planetoid snowman shape with Earth, Atlas, and Akupara, and the wastes surrounding it. Now, there's said to be other planetary shapes like this and snowmen out in our outer space beyond, but those will be mentioned in a different video. That's not the focus. Gaia, our planetary snowman, is the focus. The outer wastes beyond all of our planets on the outskirts of everything are said to extend out infinitely into a flat plane that kind of eventually warps back on itself, creating an eggshell-like thing around the planets. Essentially, the outer wastes are the eggshell, and the Earth, Atlas and the Acropara, we are the yolk inside the egg. Inside the lore of the Beyond the Ice Wall wiki and the lore system, a substance known as aether fills up the space beyond our planets. Aether essentially keeps everything suspended. It's kind of like the glue that holds our metaphysical realities together. Aether itself is more dense in higher elevations, which keeps things more normal and more sane and less enigmatic, which means that Earth, which sits at the top of the elevation, has the most aether, meaning we have the most normal realities and less magic, less effects, and that sort of thing. Further down you go beyond the ice wall to Atlas and Acropara, the less aether there is, which means there's more magic, there's more strange effects, there's more weird plants and animals and cultures, and it just gets weirder and stranger the further down you go. With less aether means the laws of nature and the fabrics of reality don't mean as much. And that's why the two main planets beyond Earth have all the strange stuff I'm going to mention in this video. Aether directly affects things like gravity and light and reality stabilization, which is why strange things do happen in Earth, weird, odd things that can't be explained, but not enough to where it would cause alarm. But these strange things that happen here happen more often as we go down. But just know that the most important part of the aether in this lore is how it affects magic and energies and vibrations. Things like psychic communications and palm readings and future telling and soothsaying and all that kind of stuff, that happens more and it's more realistic where there's no aether or where there's less aether. Things like projections and ghosts and haints and everything like that, beings of the ethereal realm, they can exist outside of the aether, which is why here on Earth you have sightings of like Bigfoot and ghosts and that kind of thing, and magic that happens but can't be explained because there's so much aether here that keeps everything in line. Okay, so just to make sure you're still with me here and you haven't clicked off the video and you're not going insane, let's recap a few things. In the world behind the ice wall lore, Earth, Atlas, and Acropara are on top of each other like a galactic snowman. They're connected by their southern poles, and beyond those walls of ice, or walls or borders or whatever, is how you get to the different planets. Everything is surrounded by this aether material, this invisible strand that keeps us all together, and where there's aether, there's normalcy, and the further down you go, the less aether there is, therefore the less normalcy there is. Those wastes on the outer edges of the map, they come out and they make an eggshell around our Gaia, our planetary snowman, and the planets that I just talked about act as the yolk inside, and the aether material that keeps it all together acts as the egg whites, that liquid that keeps everything together. In this lore system as well, there's another substance that's pretty similar to aether, but it's called azoth, and it's kind of like the anti-aether. It's the exact opposite. Azoth is essentially this substance that flows through all matter. It's power, and it's in very high concentration at the very center of our Earth, specifically in Agartha. I probably just woke up Wendigoon saying that. But anyways, azoth gives people this energy, this life force, this power, and the aether, as I said earlier, kind of limits that magic, that infinity. So it's always the azoth and the aether kind of dueling in this cosmic battle of sorts for power and for domination. Think of it as matter and antimatter. They're all doing their own thing, and it's all helping the world or hurting the world show its magic or hide its magic and those kind of properties. You still with me, please? So what I've just described is actually the simplest way I can very briefly summarize this theory and the lore therein. Things exist beyond our reality in these faraway lands beyond the ice wall, and those are the things that I'm going to get into in this video. But now that we have all the pre-stuff out of the way, that's just the basic tutorial of the theory, you need to put your tinfoil hats on, and you need to get ready, because I'm about to get into the lands, the creatures, and the histories and all that of these civilizations in the second planet under Earth, known as Atlas. So the planet Atlas, which is of course the body of the snowman, sits right below us and is accessible beyond our ice caps, our ice walls. And there are actually several different ways in the lore where you can get through the ice wall to explore these faraway distant lands. And before I get into the actual lands, I want to explain those gates a little bit, that way you can kind of get a little premise of what we're going for. The gates are the Sentinel Gate, The Tiger's Gate, the Serpent's Gate, and the Leviathan's Gate. Those are what they've been called, and as you can see in the image, they are labeled here. I'm going to be referencing this map a lot. Get used to it, because that's one of the only references we have. So these gates play a massive role in understanding why certain people are in these lands in Atlas and how they got found. Sentinel's Gate is located at the southern part of the ice wall. The terrain here is pretty flat, dotted with small ponds and marshlands. In these swampy marshlands lives a species of penguin that is much wiser, much more evolved than the penguins that we know. They are the sentinel penguins. Of course, that is where the Sentinel Gate gets its name from. The very first people thought to have found the ice wall and this break in between, the Sentinel Gate, were the Proto-Yagan, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, Proto-Yagan sailors. Those sailors got horrifically off course and they ended up getting lost and sailing directly through the Sentinel's Gate. A small number of these sailors stayed here and kind of set up camp and colonized the immediate areas. There's not really much plant life to speak of here at Sentinel's Gate because the land is dotted with just lakes and rivers and ponds and things like that. But those penguins that I mentioned that live here, those are another story entirely. They stand at 2.5 meters tall and are extremely aggressive. They're literally known for how mean they are and how they'll go out of their way to attack people that they see. The sentinel penguins usually spend days at a time standing completely still, just idling there in this very scary looking position until they're ready to attack their prey. One thing that you'll find in all of these different lands at the gates and beyond the gates into Atlas and beyond is that these places have tribes. They have native people that were settled there a long time ago, and I'll try to get into as much deep lore of that as I can. There is a lot of it, and I will not be able to get it all in, so I apologize for the lore purists. I'll just be glossing over some of them, but I'll mention the ones that I think are important. For instance, here at the Sentinel Gate, the Senti people are who kind of run the joint. Each of these tribes is split up by chieftains, and a chieftain rules a certain part of the tribe, and these Senti people are known for not getting cold. Obviously, the areas around here are pretty frigid, and they can get really low in temperature, and these people are known for being hardy. They don't even wear coats. Kind of just walk around naked and they don't even get cold at all. There are other smaller little islands that dot the Sentinel's Gate that were founded by Argentinians, by people from Germany, by people from Spain. All sorts of colonies like that were started many years ago, and the people that allegedly live there now are descended from those. Anyways, that was Gate 104. The next gate I want to mention is the Tiger's Gate, and you can kind of see where this is going just by the name. Now, this break in the ice wall is on the western side of it, so it's on this side, but I think it's that side for you. Whatever. This break in the wall is known for its hilly and harsh environments. Hot springs, volcanoes, and running rivers run wild through here, and the land is untamed. And of course, the gate is named after the tiger species that lives here, known as the Tiger del Glacier, which is just the tiger of the glacier. These are physically massive animals, not too dissimilar to the saber-toothed tigers that we know. These things possess extreme hunting capabilities, and they stalk their prey for days. They can jump and bound like an insane thing. The native peoples of this Tiger's Gate area are very large, very hardy people, and they're actually so strong naturally that they fight these tigers in gladiatorial combat in some of the colonies, which I think is pretty cool. The peoples brandish obsidian weapons because obsidian is rich in the grounds here, and they wear the skins of the tigers that they kill. The majority of humans who have settled the Tiger's Gate area are of Spanish descent, save for a few British colonies here and there, but where are those not? The people who live on the islands of the Tiger's Gate make their way, get through life, by fishing and hunting. They are specifically known here to hate and detest pirates. They can't stand the idea of them, so they always try to ward them away and keep them off. The Tiger's Gate is really not a very common gate to go through if you're an explorer going beyond the ice wall, partially because of how dangerous it is to get there, and then the people not being too welcoming of pirates and those who travel there. Moving over to the eastern side of the ice wall, we have another very difficult, but probably the most famous exit through the wall itself, known as the Leviathan's Gate. This entrance is known far and wide, from sailor to sailor, for the depths of its water and the things that hide beneath. The water is extremely choppy and aggressive, and giant leviathans and mosasaur and fish swim in the surrounding areas. Weird looking whales swim around this area as well, and you can hear their calls if you get close enough. Those who do live in the Leviathan's Gate area are typically from French or Scandinavian descent, but there are other varying ethnicities as well. The land here in the Leviathan's Gate is jagged, it's coarse. It's like the mountains appear to be teeth clenching down on any passerbys. The Leviathan's Gate is extremely dangerous to those who are not used to its waters or those who are accidentally stuck there, and it's known to be a very deadly watery grave for many a sailor. Strange things lurk in the waters below the Leviathan's Gate. The final and the most popular of these gates is the Serpent Gate. This is the entrance through the wall on the northern sector. And the Serpent's Gate looks completely different from the other areas I've described. The region is covered in these dirt and rock outcroppings that appear to be stalactites on the ground. These weird mounds are located on the grassy plains that make up the Serpent's Gate. Now, fitting with the theme of the other entrances, like the Sentinel, the Leviathan, and the Tiger Gate, this Serpent Gate is named for the large sea serpents that swim around the waters here, as well as other giant snake-like entities that call this gate home. Large labyrinthine snakes swim in the water, and they contort their bodies in these mesmerizing fashions, shimmering and shining in the delight of many a sailor, and also the death of them too. The Serpent's Gate is mainly home to descendants of Asian and European countries, but there are other places as well, like a few South Americans and so on. And fitting with the other gates, there is a tribe of native people here known as the Serpentese, and this group is hallmarked by their clothes. They wear the skins and the scales of the serpents that they kill in battle. They wear them as sort of a trophy, kind of like how old hunters used to wear the hides of the animals they killed in the frontier days, which also that's just pretty cool. Like imagine walking around with this like blue snakeskin cloak on. Pretty cool. And all things considered, the Serpent's Gate is normally monikered as the easiest gate to get through to get to Atlas. So anyways, those were all the gates. That's how you get through the ice wall. Those are the openings, the breaks in the ice. That's how you get to the first new world that I'll be discussing, which is Atlas. For the rest of this video, I'll be going over the land masses, the cultures, the creatures, and the lore of all the continents and everything like that in Atlas. It's 1:46 in the morning, bro. I'm trying. For the sake of the video, I will be going over each of these continents and all the lore and stuff that they have in this order. It's a counterclockwise motion. We'll start here with Thoth, and then I'll go up and around and around and around till we get back. And that's how I'll structure the video, if that makes any sense at all. Thoth is first, and it is nicknamed by people who were there and travelers as the Nomad Continent. The lands of Thoth were settled by peoples from South America over 8,000 years ago, and more recently, they were discovered by our good pal Magellan back in the 1500s. Allegedly. Now, sailing the seas beyond the Antarctic ice wall is very dangerous for many reasons. Giant dinosaur-like creatures, humanoids that have no head but their eyes are on their torso, carnivorous environments that want to eat you. These are just a few snafus explorers like Magellan might encounter in this new world. So when Magellan was injured because his boat was crashed into by another careless captain, and as a result he was thrown into the ship's wheel and suffered a concussion, he needed somebody who can fight on his side and to help him get what he deserves from this incident. That somebody might be Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. Morgan & Morgan has over 1,000 attorneys that operate in all 50 states. So you know you'll have someone to back you up wherever you're at. When you're seriously hurt, like old Magellan was, your injury could be worth millions. And Morgan & Morgan do not settle for lowball offers. Insurance companies often lowball their clients, so it's very important to Morgan & Morgan that they fight to get you the money you deserve if you become their client. They achieved significant verdicts in the past couple months for victims that were involved in life-altering crashes, like $12 million in Florida, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer, or $26 million in Philadelphia, which is 40 times the highest insurance offer. And the best part is, it's absolutely free unless you win. If you ever got seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. It's so easy, and you can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/spoogly, which can be found in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen from your phone's camera. With the help of Morgan & Morgan, old Magellan could be back on the world's oceans, sailing the seas, knowing that he is supported by a firm who fought for him. Thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. By the year 1830, the nomad continent of Thoth was lived in and inhabited by several different ethnicities from across our known Earth. Now, Thoth was first inhabited by the Yagan-descended Bay Ninjor peoples, which again, there are a lot of pronunciations in this video, and I will be getting a lot of them wrong, because there's no rules for what's beyond the ice wall people. But those Yagan people were the first to come through the Sentinel Gate way back in the day, and the Sentinel Gate, of course, is right up by Thoth. The natives here are known as the Norgdri, the Fasciati, and the Bay Nungior, all of which descended from some sort of Norseman tribes from Europe. The land of Thoth itself is wide and expansive, with tons of different climates and cultures and animals. The landmass and the continent itself that Thoth is known to move. It physically moves in the water, and it does full rotations around the ice wall every so often. A full rotation around the planet of Atlas takes it about 1,500 years to complete, which seems like a long time, but that's really not that long in the grand scheme of things. But for the majority of the land, it is a cool and temperate place with thick biomes of lush vegetation and animals that scurry beneath the leaves. Hidden rivers and lakes and ponds dot this landscape, and the summers are warm and the winters are cold. And because of this, the natural animals that are from Thoth have adapted to change their environments based on the changes of the seasons and the fact that the entire continent rotates around Atlas, which is crazy. Thoth is home to a multitude of strange creatures and entities that I can't explain all of them. These animals often live alongside the nomads that inhabit the continent. The Beoshad is a large marsupial creature that lives in the Follower Islands off of Thoth. It's known to be fast and aggressive and stealthy, and nearly silent when it walks and hunts. The Hargul is a large armored mammal that kind of resembles a shaggy bear. The biggest distinction between the Harguls and the bears is that Harguls have these large chitin armor plates that are on them, sort of like dinosaur armor, and these plates protect their upper halves. Northern terror birds also inhabit the upper reaches of Thoth, and these are similar to the creatures that roamed Earth many millions of years ago. Now, the majority of the creatures that reside on the continent of Thoth are mammal or bird-like in appearance and their nature. And you'll notice themes as we go to the different continents. Some can be birds, some can be lizards, some other kind of animals there are, dinosaurs and whatnot, which I guess dinosaurs are just big lizards, but I digress. Thoth is one of the more normal kind of places that you'll hear in this video beyond the ice wall and in Atlas, so just buckle up because it's just gonna get even crazier as we move down over to our next land masses, Min and Nevis and the Avalons. So Min and Nevis and the Avalons are two separate island peninsulas that exist over this direction from Thoth. Min and Nevis is known far and wide as the Isles of Deception, as all the natural wildlife that inhabits its islands is known for their camouflage and their ability to blend in with their surroundings. But specifically, the most enigmatic feature is that the plants on the island will look like animals, and the animals will look like plants. All living beings on the Isle of Deception have kind of adapted their bodies to warp and change their chemistry to look completely different and take the appearance of completely different things. And because of this natural effect, not much is really documented about the Isles of Deception. All we know is the tales that the sailors have of how you shouldn't go anywhere near it because you can't trust anything on them. Moving over to the Avalons, these are twin land masses that are kind of right next to each other. And these Avalons are really full of strange and interesting entities. The two land masses themselves have been nicknamed the Nexus of Fantasies, which is kind of a crazy name, can't even lie. And when you hear what I'm about to say, you'll understand why it's called the Nexus of Fantasies. It is said in the great histories of the world beyond the ice wall that these lands, the Avalons, were founded by Camelot. That's right, the original kingdom of Camelot is said to have founded the Avalon lands here. and their descendants in this modern day still live there. Allegedly, this happened because in the olden days, the two sister islands of the Avalons were once connected to the ice wall, and the Kingdom of Camelot, when it disappeared and left in disgrace, ended up finding it, staying there, and then continental drift happened, and that's how we get the Avalons where they're at now. When the Avalons split from the ice wall, they were obviously icy and frozen. They changed when they moved further south, and now they're mossy and primeval and almost something you'd see in a storybook. Thick fog and trees and rivers and valleys and everything of that nature flows through these sister islands. Misty skies and steep waterfalls and dragons and knights and that sort of thing is what inhabits the Avalons. Creatures that look to be out of fantasy novels take their home here. Giant beasts of fantastical proportions are said to live in the trees as well. And everything here, like I said, is just living up to the name, the Island of Fantasies. It just makes sense. It seems like this medieval amazing heaven you could visit. The people that live here now are descendants, like I said, from the feudal European people that settled the area, and they still kind of behave the same way. They have battles and armor and shields and spears, and they're not really evolved to the degree that Earth is. Further below the lands of the Avalons is a place called Arthornia, which again, this lore is crazy. Arthornia is another land that is said to be started or founded by an old world tale from Earth. It's said that their foundation goes all the way back to Merlin and King Arthur, and all the people that followed them left and they came down here in disgrace. Arthornia is home to massive forests, just giant proportions, and deep rocky valleys. A race of Neanderthal-like natives lives in these valleys as well, and they live in small huts. The full reaches of Arthornia are not fully known, just because there's not enough people to go searching for it. Moving over, we have the beautiful lands of the Dasboga. This is a massive island chain, kind of off by itself in the ocean, and the islands themselves are made out of these weird crystal-like things. These crystalline rocks glow extremely bright against the sun that orbits Atlas, and this causes many different colors to reflect and to refract on the ground and towards passerbys. Ruins of great and ancient civilizations are here on this crystal island, yet no one knows where they came from. Moving further around, we get to a place known only as the Islands of the Blessed. These lands are not connected by actual geography, by culture, or by people. They're just kind of all there together, so they're all lumped into the Islands of the Blessed. The environment in some of these lands is so lush and good for growing vegetation. In fact, you can fully grow plants in just a mere few days here. Because of this, the archipelagos on these islands are teeming with large trees and other sorts of plants and vegetables and fruits. There's an island in this chain called Genro that is so thick with brush that you can't even inhabit it. The entire island is just trees and leaves and vines. People have attempted to burn the vegetation and kind of move on to the island, but it all just grows back in a day. There are also other islands, in the Islands of the Blessed, like the Malandantes and the Bamboo Celestes. These islands are covered in seagrass and bamboo forests, again, teeming with life. Several of the islands here are covered fully in gigantic flowers and Venus flytraps and things of that nature too. Overall, the Islands of the Blessed are known far and wide for their scents and their smells and their fragrances because of all the flora and fauna here. Moving up and around again to the next landmass at a lightning pace, I know, but there's so much lore that I can't cover it all. I apologize. But next we have the continent Cuerva and Cabola, also known as the Land of the Lizards. This entire area is full of a vibrant and rich culture. Fertile lands, beautiful scenery, and of course, lizards, and giant lizards at that. Tons of species live here. These places are said to be not too different from the tropical islands in the Caribbean from our Earth. The native peoples that live here are known to hunt and coexist at the same time with the lizards. The lizards are vibrant in their personalities, in their patterns, in their mating rituals. All of it is so unique. It's like an island of Komodo dragons and giant other flightless dragons and stuff. There's a group of people known as the Nashivoyo who live here, and they were said to come from the island of Madagascar from our Earth. Specific lizard species like the tattooed lizard, the shedskin lizard, and many other types of actual specific breeds live here on the islands, and they're all hunted or farmed or used in various ways and methods. The people that inhabit these islands are also known for their equality in their politics and their economy between men and women. Even though they're kind of like tribal and a little bit underdeveloped, they still have great ideas of equality, and the women are able to buy and own their own land and property and farms and that kind of thing too. Good for you guys. Continuing to move along, below this ice wall, we have the next huge continent on the list, known as Patacia. This grand mass is located beyond the opening of the Leviathan's Gate, and it was settled by the Ottoman explorers of the ancient ages. This land is the first prehistoric type mass that I've talked about today, and those early explorers from the Ottoman Empire, they found dinosaurs and giant brontosauruses type things walking around here as well. The land is covered in deserts and forests and bogs and other swamps. Armored sauropods walk the plains with their clubbed tails, and ankylosaurus type creatures that are known as pangolins live here as well. Gigantic crocodiles swim in the swamps here and up the streams, and massive man-sized lemurs leap through the trees. It's pretty much just like the old dinosaur days that you'd see from a movie or something. Giant horned frogs range the plains and the prairies, and large birds fly through the sky and blot out the sun. Huge wild hogs live here as well, and these are a big nuisance because they burrow underground. That's how they travel. And because of this, massive sinkholes and valleys form. They kind of act like big worms or something. The people who live on this continent to this day are from all over our Earth, and they're descended from tons of different people. Asia and Europe and the Americas and all that stuff. This land marks that quintessential land beyond the ice wall vibe, these lush forests, these vast burning deserts, with these huge dinosaurs that just walk across the plains. That is what this place is. That is Patacia. Now, right above Patacia, as we go up, is the huge landmass known as Zerzura. Now, Zerzura is said to be about the same landmass size as real-life Europe, so it's a pretty expansive area. Misty, temperate woodlands and highland deserts and swamps and mountain ranges and vistas and archipelagos, all sorts of environments are located here in this giant continent. Zerzura is known for its many ideas and perceptions that kind of change reality. As I said at the beginning, the further down you go in the snowman structure of Earth and Atlas and Akupara, the less that reality is real. The more magic and strange things and enigmatic findings that can occur, and that's exactly the case here. Zerzura has kind of gained a reputation with sailors and travelers and explorers as another place that you just cannot trust. The physical world can distort here, and the reality that you see might not actually be reality. And on that same note, Zerzura is home to a ton of different sentient and sapient animals and creatures that add to that deception. The main case in point is the Zerzura blimye, which is this sapient, large creature that walks around. This is the first example of a blimye, which is those creatures that don't have a head, and their facial features, where they should be, are on their torso. These are the only non-human, sapient, sentient entities that I've covered so far, and they're the main ones here on these islands. Zerzura is nicknamed God's Deception, and that's because of the factors that I just mentioned. The reality of things here is just not true. You could see one thing, but it's not actually occurring. There's things without heads walking around, and people in places that don't exist, and entire civilizations that you can't trust. It's a beautiful land, but a mysterious land. Gigantic and enigmatic mushrooms grow, and they have different effects in the environment than if you eat them, and it's just a whole ordeal. Continuing up and around the wall, we have reached the huge, massive landmass of Germania. Now, Germania is physically the second biggest continent, the whole thing together, that I'll be talking about today, and with it comes a share of eccentricities that are beyond weird. In Germania, everything comes in pairs, so every natural occurring thing has two of them. If there's mountains, there's two identical mountains. If there's creatures, there's two identical creatures. If there's plants, and so on and so you get it. Germania is also home to one of the only sentient, non-human beings in the entire Atlas world, and those are known as the Zwado beings. Now, these beings are known for their peaceful nature and their ability to reconcile with their enemies. They sort of look like hippo elephant type creatures with short legs and long trunks off the front of their face. They also are known for their long tongues. They are extremely kind and social creatures, and despite the fact that they're not human, they can interact with humans pretty well. I find it kind of wholesome that in the lore, if you read it, these creatures they're sentient, so they think like humans do, sort of, and they try to do these daily tasks like live life, but they can't because they're kind of clunky and they have these long tusks and tendrils and stuff. So they oftentimes have to help each other out because they just love each other so much as a race, as a being. So they always help each other out doing these tasks, and I thought that was pretty wholesome. When the continent of Geminia was first explored and first found many moons ago by the Spaniards that colonized it, these Watto beings were almost wiped out through hunting to complete extinction. Geminia is home to so many different ethnicities from our world, and it's all very specific. You can see on the map that I'm showing you right now. I can't get into it all. There's not enough time, but just know that a lot of people from our world and their descendants have settled here. Strange horned fish swim in the water around Geminia, and gigantic, sentient, elephant-like things walk around the actual land here. It's a very strange place, made out of pairs and doubles, and everything is two. Very weird. We've now made our way all the way around Atlas, all the way up to the Serpent Gate. This is where the land of the Dishipasu and the Xenonesia and Aten lie, which those are very famous in the lore, and I'll of course be getting into all of them. Dishipasu is a troubled landscape full of hazards and fortifications and an environment that really just seems like it hates everything. It's like they're naturally built to deter those from landing on it. There's sharp, rocky outcroppings, there's poisonous snakes and frogs, there's beaches that you can't land on, there's whirlpools. It's all very pirate type deal. In fact, they're so dangerous that they're often used as prison colony islands from some of the other continents here. That's how bad we're talking. The only people who dare live on these dangerous islands are the native people of the Mosanosans. Now, these Mosanosans formerly used to live in Xenonesia before the Blimier War, which I'll kind of get into later. This war essentially saw these humans leave those islands because the Blimiers ran them out, and because of that, they came here as a last-ditch effort. These people were typically Russian or Portuguese or Spanish in descent. All the islands in this little chain here have their own lore and their own histories and such like that too. You can look at the full map if you want all of that. Moving up and over once more to the massive cluster of islands known as Xenonesia. Xenonesia is known far and wide for its wildlife that will seek to attack anything that moves, as well as the strange inhabitants that live on the islands themselves. Beings known as Blimiers, which I've mentioned several times in the earlier parts of this video, those are the beings with the heads that are on their torsos. They inhabit these islands and these archipelagos. Now, real life stuff here, Blimiers are actually based off of some early human history accounts of desert people that were cataloged, so I think it's pretty cool that they've tied that into this lore here. It's pretty neat. But the history of the Blimiers in the Beyond the Ice Wall lore is kind of sad, actually. I got pretty teary-eyed reading it. It begins in 1200 BC, long before the Blimiers were even created or anything like that. There were native people that lived in this island, and there were other explorers coming in from different parts of the world. Before you knew it, the native population of all the various islands were fighting blood, tooth, and nail with all the explorers that were coming through as well, and it was all chaos. Death and warfare was commonplace. Tribesmen fought tribesmen, and family fought family. It's said that no head was safe from noose nor axe in that time. But that all changed when a very enigmatic and powerful being came to Xenonesia and attempted to rule all of it. The only name this entity has is Sfath, which is S-F-A-T-H, and when Sfath arrived to the Isles, more death ensued, and he attempted to rule with an iron fist. He was feared far and wide for his madness that he brought to the lands of Xenonesia. His torture and his decapitations of the tribesmen and the warring people was really just terrifying for everybody. He attempted to essentially bring all of Xenonesia to heel using these horrible tactics of torture and control. Since he was a extraterrestrial, powerful being, he kind of had the power over these tribesmen to do so, though, in his mind at least. But during all this beheading, specifically, over the decades and centuries, Svath ended up actually creating the Blimier population here. As I said, these beings don't have a head, they just have where their head should be, their face is on their torso, and it seems that they've evolved because of the decades and centuries of Svath's decapitations. That's the entire reason they exist. The Blimier over time evolved into these really strong, fast creatures that were physically just a sight to behold. They were very muscular and tall, and they had bone plates in their weak spots. Essentially, Svath created a very powerful being that did not want to be controlled. If you've ever heard of All Tomorrows, this is pretty similar to that. Eventually, Svath saw what he was doing, and he saw that he created something that he probably couldn't stop, so he ran away and fled in disgrace. But only after realizing that he created a land of monsters and odd things and things that weren't natural. Twisted, horrifying beings that don't even resemble what they were is what he created. He essentially tried to play God, and he failed. And what was left was the Blimiers. After Svath left, the Blimiers fought whatever remaining head people, which were people with heads, that were left. They had a bloody, bitter rivalry, and they hated each other. But of course, since the Blimiers were physically bigger, stronger, more adept to fighting, they won, and they forced these people off the islands to go to other places. Like I mentioned earlier, some of them went to those prison islands, which I feel bad for those people, but whatever. That all happened decades ago. In modern day, the Blimiers are pretty peaceful. They share cultures with the head people, and they share customs as well. And in the modern day, the islands of Xenonesia are a calm place to be, a cultural paradise actually. The climates are nice, there's beaches, there's deserts, there's forests, there's everything you could ask for. But essentially, the Blimiers are the most notable thing about Xenonesia. They look pretty cool, they're pretty legendary, especially in the world beyond the Ice Wall fandom. Now we've almost made it all the way back around Atlas, all the way to Thoth again. We've almost made the full circle, and the only thing standing in our way is the last large landmass of this video, Aten, also known as the Grand Orchestra. Aten is known very widely for how rich it is. It is a very vibrant place full of wealthy land and wealthier people. It's said to be the most wealthy land in recorded history from a natural standpoint, and the people and the beings that live there have definitely taken advantage of that. It's also absurdly beautiful. It smells amazing. There's birds and flowers and big giant trees, and the land is known for how harmonizing the birds sing together. Some of the songs the birds chirp are so beautiful that it brings people to tears. And the entire continent is just said to be musical. You can hear it when you're there. It's just this amazing, lively music from the woods. The birds are chirping, the wind is blowing. Some people even say when the wind blows, it blows music. The native peoples of this island are unlike any other place in Atlas as well, and it's because they're all goblins or gnomes or orcs. Short people of stature, yes, but also full of enigmatic powers and magic. The inside lands of Aten are dotted with deserts and dangerous areas, while the outsides by the ocean are more safe and more tropical. The edges and some of the middle is where you'll find those birds and those beautiful harmonies they sing. As you can tell, the birds and the fowls are the most popular and famous thing from Aten. But you can kind of think of Aten as this fairy tale land where there's gnomes and there's magic and there's orcs and goblins. There's tunnels, there's mushrooms, there's leprechauns. Anything like that exists here. These things are human in nature, but they're also as far away from it as you can get. They have these mystical properties and these ancient languages they speak. Aten is also home to a ton of other kind of creatures as well, like giant rats and giant lizards and giant ostrich type things. But again, their main thing is the birds. The birds are very big there. Now, around the land masses of the last few islands and continents I've talked about, like Xenonesia and now Aten, giant beings swim in the ocean. Large horned whales and strange mosasaurus-looking creatures are seen all the time. Whirlpools and rifts and all sorts of things like that are very common in these oceans, especially the closer you get to the ice wall. But all of these lands that I've discussed today have their own people, their own history, and their own culture. I've said it a million times. You're probably sick of hearing it, but it's true. And I've gone over as much of it as I can physically in this video for it to make any sense at all. I want this to be kind of a taster for those that want to dabble into this, but not go too crazy. But with all that said, I have now officially gone over or skimmed over all the land masses of importance in the Atlas world beneath our world. Of course, I did skip over and miss some land masses on the outer edges. Those are just so much, I just couldn't get into all that. The video would be 10 hours long if I did. I know it's there. I read it all myself. I just couldn't script it. It wouldn't make any sense for you guys. But what I've done hopefully kind of encapsulates it all in a way that can be understood. Maybe. Now, in the lands of Akupara and beyond, in the frozen wastes and the volcanic wastes and the toxic wastes, there's other places like Atlantis and Asgard. Other strange, enigmatic, historically famous areas are in this lore system, and I'll be getting into that in the part 2, which again, if you want it, I will do it eventually. Just leave a like, letting me know you want me to do it. That way I can kind of judge viewer interaction. It just gets crazier past Atlas. Atlas is kind of like the most normal, besides Earth, obviously, because there's less aether. But once you get down to Akupara and then beyond the wastes, you're just kind of cooked, low-key, and I'll be able to get into all that when I get there. I absolutely love making videos on speculative history and evolution like this, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed watching it as well. I really had a fun time making this. It was very long. Hopefully you still enjoyed it though. My brain is kind of mush right now. It is currently 3:09 a.m. But all this kind of stuff just scratches my brain. Of course, it's not real. I don't believe it's real, but I love thinking about it. It's such a cool, fantastical idea to think and ponder on. But again, if you want all these specific information, these specific lore, go below the description to the World Beyond the Ice Wall wiki and check out Italian PNC's videos if you want more deep dives and stuff. There is where you'll find the meat and potatoes of this lore system. All that I talked about today, I've said it a billion times, is just the cliff notes, kind of just to get you into it. I didn't even go too crazy into the creatures and the lore. I just kind of skimmed over the cool ones. There's so much more, and I really do want to get into it all. But yeah, just use this video as a basic guide. It doesn't replace the lore. It just kind of gives you a taster for the real lore over on the wiki and in my future upcoming videos. But my head's kind of hurting a little bit. I feel kind of dizzy. I feel like I'm about to pass out. I genuinely had so much fun making this, and I cannot wait to make part 2. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want more videos like this, guys, this is all I do on this channel. I look at amazing, cool things that I can hyperfixate on, and I make videos about it. And I really appreciate you all for watching and enjoying it. Thank you so much for everything you do. If you want to support me, the best way is just by watching the video. You don't have to do anything else. There's nothing. I don't have Patreon, any of that. You just watch the video. That helps me a lot. If you want to do more, you can comment and like. I'd also really appreciate that. But check the description below for all the links you need and all that yada 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 nonsense. I say it every video. I do specifically want to thank you all for the support on the Ghost Towns of Appalachia video, the documentary I uploaded last month. That is performing so well. It has 600,000 views as I'm recording this. That exceeds my expectations. I'm so proud of that video, and I'm just grateful you all enjoyed it. That's all I can say. But I've been blabbering on for way too long now. The video's getting really too long, but again, I appreciate you all, love you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And hopefully you enjoyed this little expanse, this little gallivant into the world beyond the ice wall.